Hello, welcome to another exciting new video. We talk about Stoicism and we're going through the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I will skip around a little bit, and today I actually want to have a look at three separate sections from book 6. I'm going to read them to you one by one and I'll discuss it and I'll read the other one, but I think this is a very nice flow. Section 4. All that exists will soon change. Either it will be turned into vapor, if all matter is a unity, or it will be scattered in atoms. Very interesting. The whole atomic theory, Epicurus already formulated his atomic theory at this point, which is not to say that Epicurus understood atoms and molecules the way we understand them today. That would be ridiculous. But the idea was there. Like, everything is made up of small, tiny little elements, right? And Marcus Aurelius mentions this a couple times throughout the meditation. He keeps coming back to us being atoms, and it's very clear, and I find it very interesting, that he seems to very much, I would say, struggle with the concept of, on the one hand, are there gods? Which, if that was the state religion in Rome, I guess he would have to answer with yes. But on the other hand, there's also this whole atomic theory, which is little particles, and when we die we just spread out into the earth and those particles get recycled. That's pretty much what he writes in another section in this book. Like, well, you just die and you just get scattered, and that's pretty much it. Now, I don't want to get into the whole religious discussion here, because that would be a very long video. But it's very interesting. So again, Marcus Aurelius talks about change, how we will change. Right? Nothing is permanent. Nothing is. Everything changes, and continuously so. But again, we've talked about that a couple of times. So bear this in mind. This whole thing of atoms or something more theological. And then I want to skip ahead to section 10. Either eschew an intricate web and dispersal into atoms, or unity, order, and providence. Now, if the former, why do I even wish to spend my time in a world compounded at random and in like confusion? Why have any concern other than somehow, sometime to become earth unto earth? And why actually am I troubled? Dispersal will come on me, whatever I do. But if the latter is true, so this is the unity, order, providence point. But if the latter is true, I revere it, I stand firm, I take courage in that which directs all. It's a complicated little section, but I think what we could take away from this is something like this. On the one hand, you have a great nothingness. Maybe there is nothing in ways of theology. Maybe there is nothing in ways of, or whatever you like to call it, religion. Maybe there's none of those things. Maybe it's just that human beings are a collection of atoms, and when they die they get dispersed, and that's it. And there's nothing else. No afterlives, no hells, no heavens, no nothing. But then on the other hand, he comes back to the very Stoic belief in providence, right? Unity, order, providence. I suppose I want to say Aristotelian term of the immovable mover, right? There is some sort of God, whether that is the rational being, the logos, that is the universe in terms of Stoicism, or if it's providence, or if it is God. All three of those terms are used by Stoics interchangeably, but some sort of, let's say, divine organizing principle in the universe that kind of decides your fate. And when you think about it, I think that's what he is saying. If everything is determined by such a rational, omnipotent, omniscient creature, whether that is a god, or in his case gods, whether that is providence, whether that is fate, whether that is a rational universe, why worry? Because It's kind of a deterministic way of looking at things. Everything will be as it is supposed to be. If you're, I'm going to say something a bit extreme here. If you're supposed to die young, well, then you will die young. If you're supposed to die old, then you will die old. And what are you going to do? No, that is not. Yeah, I understand. There's all kinds of things you can say, like, so I can just stuff my face with junk food all day. No. That obviously that's an easy way out, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But the idea of some sort of guiding thing in the universe, right? Where even if that's just like a stochastic process, right? Something that it's just chance that determines what happens to you in life. If that is the case, why worry? What are you going to do against fate or a logos? But then on the other hand, right, if there is something like a god or something, why worry? So either you take a very religious approach and you do as well as you can in life, why worry about all sorts of things? Or you take a let's just for the sake of argument call that an atomistic approach, or you're just a set of atoms and you're going to disperse when you die and that's it. Why worry? In both cases, why worry? People are incredibly concerned about all sorts of things, but things will be as they are. Whether that is because of chance, whether that is because of God, whether that is because of fate, whether it's because of providence or logos, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's going to be the way it is. Now, important point here. Stoicism does not, I repeat, not say, so you can do whatever you want. That's not what Stoicism says. It still says you should make effort. You should strive to be the best version of yourself you can be. You should strive to make effort. You should strive for continuous progress along the way, becoming a better and better version of yourself. Right? So even if Stoics said there is fate or providence controlling your life, that does not mean you are vouchsafed of, like, what do you call that? You are safe from just not taking any responsibility, right? The famous quick story of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, in Diogenes Laertius's, yes. The Lives of Eminent Philosophers, of Zeno beating his slave who had stolen something. And the slave saying, knowing a little bit about his master's teachings, yeah, but I was fated to steal that. And Zeno saying, yes, and you were fated to be beaten. Right, so, Stoic humor. Anyway, so be mindful of that. But I like that idea, right? Why exactly do you worry? Because you can go with this or you can go with that. And in both cases, you'll end up in the same place. And then the final section, I think, for today. So he ended by saying, but if the latter is true, I revere it, I stand firm, I take courage in that which directs all. And then section 11, when circumstances force you to some sort of distress, quickly return to yourself. Do not stay out of rhythm for longer than you must. You will master the harmony the more by constantly going back to it. That is a very poetic way of expressing our lives, I think. When you think about it, a lot of our lives revolve around ebbs and flows, and we oscillate, right? We are oscillating systems, and our lives oscillate. The very, very simplest level. Night and day, We typically, and there are exceptions, I know that, but I mean, typically we are awake during the day, we sleep during the night. That's an oscillation, but it's not nearly the only oscillation. I had to teach a bit about circadian rhythms of wakefulness and sleep last term. I find it a very interesting concept. So when you think about it, I promise I won't go into neuroscience too much, but just a little bit, right? How do you get tired? What does it mean to say I get tired? Well, there's all kinds of mechanisms at work. For example, you have certain deposits of a chemical called adenosine in your brain, and when that sort of builds up throughout the day, you get drowsier and drowsier. And one of the things that caffeine does, amongst other things, is it blocks the receptors for adenosine, so that's why you feel more alert. You kind of block out that drowsiness. It's a little more complicated than that. But there are other things that make you tired as well. I just said something that oscillates is light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. Well, it turns out that you have a little structure in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, right above the point where your two optic nerves coming out of your eyeballs cross over. Right above that, suprachiasmatic, optic chiasm, right above that suprachiasmatic nucleus. That nucleus gets input from special cells in your eye, and those cells are very sensitive to blue light. And it turns out that suprachiasmatic nucleus is kind of a master oscillator. That thing looks at what's going on. Okay, so dark light, dark light, dark light. Now when it gets dark, that nucleus projects to other parts of your brain. One of the parts of your brain it projects to is the pineal gland. And that's what Descartes thought, that the immaterial soul and the material body interacted. Well, it turns out that the pineal gland does something a little less poetic than that. It secretes melatonin, which is a hormone. And when it gets dark, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, right, tells the pineal gland, hey, you need to oscillate too. So it basically, technically speaking, it entrains the oscillations of the pineal gland, so that now the suprachiasmatic nucleus and the pineal gland kind of oscillate in synchrony. They've become entrained. And when that melatonin is released, you get tired. That's why over-the-counter melatonin can help you fall asleep. So, that's a very quick example. I hope I haven't bored you to death with that, but that's a very quick example of how we oscillate along with the world. And there's many other things. Think about it. We eat about every 3 hours or so. It can be a snack, can be whatever, but I mean, we get hungry, we eat, hungry, we eat, hungry, etc., right? And then you're active, and then you kind of drop your activity, you get hungry, you eat, and you get more active, and you get hungry, and you eat. So that's an oscillation too, and there's all kinds of physiological parameters, your blood pressure, your heart rate, specifically your body temperature, the release of certain hormones in your body, all of that oscillates as well. What I'm trying to say is, that's exactly what Marcus Aurelius says, isn't it? Well, I mean, it's not exactly what he says, but I mean, that's how I look at it as a cognitive psychologist. When circumstances force you to some sort of distress, quickly return to yourself. Do not stay out of rhythm for longer than you must. I think it's a very interesting way to look at things. Emotionally, cognitively, you're also in a certain rhythm. And there are ups and downs. We all know that. We all know that. In your emotions, ups and downs. But if you get into a down of your emotion, if you stay there, that won't do you any good. You need to get back up. A lot of people, when they get sad, they start to listen to really sad music and watch sad movies. But all that does is just affirm your sadness. Listen to something funny. Listen to something upbeat and comical. Watch a fun movie. And that can cheer you up. Then your oscillations go up and you start to feel cheerier again. Staying out of sync is not a good thing. You want to be in sync as much as you can. It's very difficult. It's not always easy. I'm not saying it's easy. All I'm saying is it's an interesting way to look at things. I think we've talked about a lot of things today. We've talked about atoms versus providence. We've talked about the rhythms that you have, the Oscillations, we've talked about how you can maybe not worry. So how do you get back in your oscillations? Snap yourself out of it. If you're going down, snap yourself out of it. Work on it. All the things we've talked about before, it's not the thing that bothers you, it's your thoughts about that thing. You need to be calm and at peace up there. Otherwise you will suffer. And when it's war up there, it's very unpleasant. We all know that. So there you have it. 3 sections of the Emperor. And I think these are very interesting things to think about. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you again soon for more talk about Stoicism. Bye.